the last 8 months, we've been exploring that mpcxse unit. We try to find its functionality and its use. Recently, we discovered the importance of two separate buttons, next sequence and track mute. These dual function buttons, they play a tremendous role. Our goal is to find out why. Let's get started. Today's video is gonna guide towards specific buttons. There's two buttons in mind. One with dual function called next sequence and song, and then another one is track mute and pad mute. So pad mute we are going to skip for now and concentrate on those three functions, what these two buttons bring. Now, when I think about my journey, you see, I was very blessed because my parents sent me to music school. So I'm talking about building a foundation on your instrument towards the music theory, music harmony, chords progression, and so on. So I'm thinking, you know, I still been developing that area of me. However, the biggest fear is the digital technology. mpcxse, it's one of those examples. DAW, the computer, connecting everything to audio interface, MIDI interface, all those wiring and cables, right? So this is my biggest anxiety. Now, I'm thinking, you know, there's a lot of people who are extremely good with what I struggle with, but they don't have the sense of that foundation. I'm talking about how to see your instrument and what's possible, so on. And kind of we found ourselves repeating the same mechanics, the same sound, the same key signature, and so on. So I think this YouTube thing gives us a tremendous opportunity if we only open ourselves to it. Let me ask you a question. Which topic gives you more trouble? Is it music theory or music technology? Let me know in the comments. Back to the video. In this brand new chapter with the new technology, we quickly realize that people who use it, they like to organize their workflow or composition around sequences. Sequence, it could be like a section in music, like a verse or chorus or ending or introduction. Once you have a structure in mind and everything is ready to go, now it's time to print it. These two buttons kind of stand for a prep work for that final destination. For the purpose of this video, we created some music background for you. We created this music ahead of time so we don't waste time for additional tasks. We included the layer of bass, drums, electric piano, congas, horn section, and guitar. We doubled the amount of bass to create more depth, and in the end, we've got some music piece. Now, we call it a sequence 1. Let's start with the drum set first. Bass next. Okay, so this is the music. Think about this. We could create different sequences. Sequence 1, 2, 3, 4. We could make sure that they are different from each other. In a traditional way of seeing music, it's called an introduction, a verse, a bridge, a chorus. Chorus is way bigger. You know, the reason why the music exists, there is some kind of bridge, fading, ending, so on. Okay? So you have to kind of keep your mind open towards what's about to happen. Instead of creating additional sequences and recording music from scratch, we are going to copy the same sequence a bunch of times. So here we go, sequence number 1. Sequence number 1. We hit that pencil icon and then copy sequence. We are going to call it verse 1. Do it. Okay? Now we are hitting the pencil icon again. Sequence. This time, verse 2. Do it. Copy sequence. Chorus. Do it. Another one. Bridge. Do it. And then one more. Ending. And do it. Beautiful. When we go to main, we've got sequence 1, original sequence, where we started. We could call it an intro from now on. Intro. Right now, we copied the same sequence 6 times. Each new copy includes exactly the same material, the same sound, the same music. We were able to change names of each sequence in a different way. The verse, verse 2, chorus, bridge, and ending. But they hold to the same music. Okay? All right. Let's listen to the music, what we have on the introduction first. All right, so this music happens on every single sequence now. Track mute allows us to go into specific sequence. Now, when we go in, there is a variety of different tracks. There is a bass track, drums track, right? Piano, horns, you heard it. Now, in that specific sequence, I can start muting specific tracks to create an effect, if you wish. We are in a sequence introduction, track mute. We've got 7 different instruments. What do we do? I don't know. We're going to play it and start muting. The sequence will repeat until we change it. We done. We can start with this. We've got 3 different instruments. All right. By the way, this is a phenomenal tool if you want to check if your tracks, if they interact with each other well. You see, this is just the proof. They kind of complement each other's playing. So this is a good sign. Now, I go out of the track mute by hitting main track. And look, we are going to switch from intro to verse 1. Now, since we are in verse 1, I can hit the track mute. And guess what? We've got 7 tracks available since we are copied it from the previous sequence. This is what we had in introduction. If we unleash the drum set, it will change a little bit. Beautiful. Okay, so now we've got 2 sequences, identical sequences, but because we mute different tracks, they kind of respond to the action in a different way. All right, main track. Now, verse, we are switching the sequence verse into verse 2. Hit track mute. And now we're going to unleash everything but horn section. Excellent. Next, main sequence called chorus. Chorus, it wants to be big, so we are going to unleash every single one. Leave it the way it is. Main, chorus, bridge. Let's just eliminate horns and drums. Okay, and main. Of course, we could do another chorus after the bridge, no problem. After the bridge, there is an ending track, so let's just make it slightly different. So definitely horns out, drums out. And of course, the essence of the ending, we could manipulate it, and there's nothing else after that. You understand? So we could go very easily into the essence of that sequence material and basically change it into your liking. Turns out track mute allows us to go into every single sequence and manipulate the essence of music. It's that simple. Next sequence button, it's gonna respond slightly different. When we hit that button, we will be able to explore a forum, future forum of your song, which means we won't go into the essence of each sequence like we just did, but manipulate which section goes where. I hit next sequence button and I've got 7 different layers. Okay? Don't worry about the sequence number 2. Quick note, our conga pattern, I'm not a percussionist, so I used a conga pattern coming from easy drums. When I grab a certain beat and drag it into MPC software, it always for some reason creates a new sequence. Now I go into that new sequence and select it all, then copy and paste into place I desire. But for some reason, I cannot erase that sequence. So basically, there is nothing in it, but it still exists as a number. So you have to just deal with it. It took me a while to get used to it. Maybe you have a solution. I don't know, you try to discover things about it. Maybe I missed the chapter, what allows you to erase it for good. So look, now we are dealing with sequences. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've got 7 different sequences. Now I hit intro. I'm gonna play that sequence, and then I'm gonna touch the very next one. When this sequence comes to an end, it's gonna switch to the selected one. Here we go. Intro. Whoa, whoa. And it's gonna switch. Back to chorus. 5, 6. And this is the ending sequence, right? What we could basically influence even farther. But today's video, it's all about these 2 buttons and what they do. Next sequence button allows me to fool around with sections. Which section should I print first? Which section second? And, how to move my material. If I find that my previous work inside each sequence doesn't work and I want to change it, you can absolutely do that by going to main track, selecting the sequence you want to change, go to track mute, and basically unmute wherever speaks to you. Okay, go back, now next sequence, and you can start again. This time, in introduction, you're going to hear the bass line as well. Excellent. All right. When you look at the bottom strip of information, there's something called sudden. What the sudden does, it allows us to switch the sequence to the next sequence immediately. Let me demonstrate. So the intro continues. Switch. Switch. Okay, so it's like, I don't want to wait, I don't have time to listen the whole thing. Next button allows us to, when we hit it, the machine is gonna count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it's gonna go after your chosen next move. Here's the music. 1, and then. And of course, hold, it means that I can loop around that section. Okay, so you can hold 2 days. Of course, there's a clear button, which means you can clear stuff. I have a question for you. In the lower left corner, there's a button called Song on the screen. Okay, so I can save this kind of structure by hitting it and copy the song. But you see, I found a different way of dealing with that subject, so I don't see the value of doing it through that button. So please educate me if I'm wrong. I'm trying to discover things about this unit. But my way is to hit Shift, hold the Shift, and hit that next sequence button, which basically turns into the song. In a song button, I can select my shape of a song. I need to play 7 sequences in the left corner of my screen. So I'm gonna insert wherever sequence comes up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. We've got 7 different sequences, but if you zoom in, they are identical. We copied the same sequence 7 times. That's fine, because now I'm about to double click on sequence number 1, and I'm gonna scroll the wheel until I hit the intro. The amount of loops, we could do 2 loops, for example, as an exercise. They share the same BPM and the amount of bars. So these functions you can totally change, but for now, it should be enough. So now, after the intro, we've got verse 1. After verse 1, we've got verse 2. Chorus stays. Let's find the bridge. After bridge, let's do another chorus, and after chorus, there will be ending. That's it. And it's gonna repeat itself. So now we are testing if that arrangement makes perfect sense. Alright, so you've got the idea, right? So now we've got the representation of our song. Now we can export things. What do we do next? Well, we can print it as a song. This export button, it's gonna do just that. Hit the button and you've got the starting point, ending, stereo output, main inserts, file form, bit depth, sample rates. You can manipulate those and then export. And guess what? You put the name on it and it's done. Okay? But also we've got something called clear. You can clear this whole thing and start all over again. Convert sequence, it's interesting. You see, it's gonna convert all the sequences into one sequence. So now we share 7 sequences right now. So it's gonna create an additional sequence, and you can find it under sequence number 8, and it's gonna include all the material. Well, of course, delete, insert button. We know what to do. Our goal for today are these two buttons, next sequence and track mute. That's why we don't go into the essence of the music and make tremendous changes. For example, in introduction, I could change some things about individual instruments. In a verse, I could simplify the bass line, simplify the drum beat, so create a contrast. In the ending section, I could do the same by creating a strong punches in the end. It's like, okay, music came to an end. Main, browser, my file. Find it next sequence, and coming soon, next sequence 2, and look. Okay, you can always load it back to the main, and voila. I hope this video was helpful. Let me know what you think. My name is Piotr Kowalczyk. I will see you next time.